Hey, you guys, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are back for another podcast, Swipe Right After 40. I am super excited today, y'all. As y'all can see my face. So I have a special guest that I want to bring on Swipe Right After 40 podcast. And yeah, we're just gonna have a chit chat. We're gonna have some good conversations. And I have had the pleasure of knowing this young lady for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years now. And we have really become close, and I love her dearly. And y'all know her if you've been watching Kourtney and Eddie, you know her already. If you watched the intro, if you heard the intro, that song is probably still stuck in your head. So I want to introduce to you a very, very special person that has been around in the music industry for a while, you guys. And so she has a wonderful testimony. She has been through a lot, and of course, I want to be able to bring her on this platform to discuss. And we're just going to talk about swiping right after 40, healing, loving, going through divorce, going through all the things that women go through, especially at this stage and age in our life. So at this time, no further ado, I want to bring on to the stage Miss Omega, Miss Wonderful Omega. Y'all give her a clap and applause. I need one of those machines that go, yay!
Okay. Hey, hey, fam.
Hey, so I want to say first, thank you for this invitation. Thank you so much for coming on this platform to discuss what we're about to discuss today. Now we may kind of have our own little flow. Like I said, it's going to be more of
Mhm.
a chit chat than a sit down interview or anything like that. And so, yeah, I just want people, every woman has been through a lot and has
Yep.
have their own personal testimony. So it's just not about me. This platform is about other women, and I
Mhm.
want other women to be able to be encouraged, whatever stage and place you are in your life. There is somebody that done been through what you done been through. There's somebody
Right.
that's probably going through what you're going through. And there's
Mhm.
somebody that probably is in a place of healing and wholeness and where you are right now. So things do get better. So I'm not going to
Absolutely.
prolong the time. I'm going to bring on Miss Omega and let her speak. And first of all, can you just tell us a little bit about you and your journey as a woman?
Ooh. Let's see. How long back should we go? Um,
As
it-
far back as you want to. Anything as far back as you want to.
no, I think I discovered at a young age. As I lost both my parents when I was very young. Early 20s, really starting my life as an adult, really by myself. So I've gone through like a lot. I've seen a lot throughout my life. Love stories. I've had some, interesting ones. Um, I was engaged 3 times,
Wow.
but never made it down the aisle. And all 3 times, I'll say it was me. I get teased a lot about having my track shoes at the front door. So I'm one who's going to put, if I see a red flag, I'll jump in them shoes. I'm gone.
Yeah, I
Um,
get it. Before you go any further, so you said you lost your parents when you were younger.
yes.
So let's talk about that, and then we can just kind of, continue to pivot and go forward. So
Absolutely.
what was that like? Because, that has not happened to me. So I don't know
Mhm.
what that experience is like. I had my mom, she's still around. My dad died when I was probably in my 30s. So,
Hmm.
I don't know what that is like. But talk to those that may have experienced that, and what was that like for you?
Okay. Um, I was my dad's only child. He died 1 month after I turned 18.
Wow.
I was my mother's youngest child. She had four. My mother died when I was 22. So between, I would say my hardest or most challenging part of life was going through the loss of my father because I was a daddy's girl. Um, and then a year after he passed, my mother suffered a massive major stroke.
Wow.
So she did live 4 years after that stroke. But at 19, I had this mom who it left her in pretty bad shape. She I can't say that she was weakened in her body. Mentally, she was not all there. So that was challenging. 3 months after she passed away, or actually 2.5 months after she passed away, her mom died, my grandma.
Wow. Wow.
So there was a lot of grief happening. Um, the year that my mom passed away, my oldest sister, she was about maybe 29 or 30 at the time. She suffered a major stroke.
Wow.
So, me being the youngest, I was always the strong one in the family, the Iron Lady, because I had to be the one that really held things together. At that time, I didn't have any children or anything. My family did. I was everybody's babysitter growing up because they all had kids young. But to overcome that, I can tell you it was a challenge. Sometimes I know it was nothing but God,
Mm.
as to how I was able to actually, get through those times. But it was definitely rough. Here we are 40 years later, and I still have dreams about my parents.
Wow.
Yeah. So the pain never completely goes away. You just learn how to live without them. And then you sit back now, I have a child, of course, and now I have a granddaughter. They'll never know what it's like to have, my parents around. And that kind of hurts the heart a little bit because you definitely want that. But hey, you're tossed into the world like, Pac said, it was me against the world. That's how I
Right.
felt.
Right. So when you say that you lost your father when you were in your 20s, do
No,
you
18.
okay, 18. So do
Wow.
you think that that kind of veered you into how you chose a man, how you chose men? Was it positive or was it maybe negative? I can say for me, my dad was not in my life like growing up. My mom and dad got divorced when I was like too young to remember.
Mhm.
So I ended up longing for that, connection as far as a man because I didn't see one growing up. Except for
Mhm.
my grandfather, but my great grandfather, but it wasn't like we were living with him. So
Mhm.
I didn't know how a man's supposed to treat me, so I ended up choosing wrong because I didn't have a good representation of
Mhm.
what a man should, how a father should treat a daughter.
Mhm.
So was that like for you? Was that the same?
No, actually, I can say because even though I only had him, I'll say 17 years of my life, because the last year he was suffering from the cancer. Um, my dad was the man. I'm telling you, you talk about tall, dark, and handsome. My dad was 6'5". He was Indian, so he had that olive Indian colored skin. Um, he was 49 when I was born.
Oh wow.
Mama was 30. Okay, daddy, come on. But I can't fault her because she saw that good looking man and she was like, yes. So just the way that he carried himself, and my dad loved me. So
Mm,
I never had a lack or was searching for something to fill that void because it was my cup was runneth over.
okay.
So even to this day, I have never met a man that I could say could measure up to my dad because my
Mm.
dad was the man. I'm telling you. So
So do
I
you
think.
think that that maybe you are looking for their comparison and what I'm
Mhm.
saying maybe
They
in
falling
that
short.
yeah, okay. Okay. And so a standard got to be very high in order for you to be able to connect because you said you were engaged 3 times
Mhm.
and maybe it's a certain standard that now your dad has set and maybe a lot of men cannot come up to that standard. You think
And
so?
it's not just that though. It's how he made me feel.
Mm,
My dad showed me my value, my worth at a very young age, and I was never one to compromise that. So I know when I look at the differences between me and my siblings, their dad was not in their life.
mm,
They all had children young. You know, I don't know about, well, I kind of know how old you are, but anyway, my parents, my mother's family, they're from New Orleans, Texas. So they have that old school type. They can't really show emotions or
mm.
affection because it's a sign of weakness from a woman. I don't agree with that. But
Right.
that's how I was raised because that was their belief. So maybe my siblings were looking for something, in search of something because they didn't have their dad. My mom, I could tell you 5 times that I can recall that she told me she loved me.
Mm,
She just wouldn't. If you said, Mama, do you love me? Girl, get out of here. Quit playing.
I can see
That's what
that.
she would say.
Yeah, I
So,
can see that.
yeah.
Especially
So,
growing up. in the era we
It's
grew
that
up
era.
in.
Right.
Yeah, it was just the era. Yeah.
Hmm. But the flip side of that is, I think, because I had my dad and he was such a strong person and a loving person, and girl, I had him wrapped around my finger. That big old man, I was, yes. Uh, I didn't feel like anything was missing.
Mm.
So growing up, I kind of was like, I thought I was a pretty good judge of character. And I'll say this, the three fiancés that I had, sorry, my contact trying to fall out. They were all good guys to a certain degree. Um, the first one was, we were too young, but he was a good guy. And to give a testament to the type of relationships that we had, I'm still good friends with all of them. It's just the relationship piece didn't work, and maybe it was the timing that, for us, that just wasn't right.
Right.
And I've always been the kind of person who, I go off vibes, I go off feelings. If the vibe and the feeling wasn't right, I don't want you to be unhappy, because I'm not going to be unhappy. So if it's not working, we can, agree to just say, hey, it's time to part ways. It's not working out. Um, Even when you have children involved, right? My daughter, her father, we didn't work out. But now here we are. She's grown. We're the best of friends. And people don't understand our relationship, because if I need him for anything, he's there. He needs me for anything, I'm there. And he's been married too since then. And me and his ex-wife, we were cool. That's grown. That's called grown people.
It is. It is.
The relationship didn't work, and I could have so many things to say negatively, but why? I'm not going to put his business out there. It just
Right.
didn't work.
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
Hmm.
You know, I, a lot of people, if they could be in that place of maturity of just grown people, everybody getting along, it didn't work, you move past it and you move forward, but that's not the case for everybody.
No, it's not. But if you
So,
stay in that negative space, though, Kourtney, that gives him power over you.
I mean, you preaching, yes. Like, if we talk about like life is life, things happen, heartbreak happens, divorce happens, cheating happens, all of that stuff happens, but you can't stay in that place of when it happened. You have to move forward. We have, in order, I mean, and you have to forgive that
Absolutely.
person, and it releases you to move forward. So you can't
Mhm.
stay in a place of bitterness and anger and all that stuff, because it happens.
Yes.
And I think that if people could look at a situation like that and say, hey, it didn't work for us, whatever happened happened, but we can move forward for the sake of the children and co-parent in
Right.
a real peaceful, not just
Hmm.
fake, but a real
Hmm.
peaceful area and atmosphere for the children, for the grandchildren.
I totally agree, because that's pretty much how I am. There's a lot of people that, were friends of my mom that actually loved us because they loved her.
Mm.
So there was not a lot of drama, and God rest her soul. But my mother was not the easiest person, to deal with. She was cute. She knew it.
Mm. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
she knew it.
Mhm.
And so she acted as such,
Okay.
and didn't care what anybody thought, but when it came to the kids and the relationships and what I saw, and I'll just be honest, a lot of my parenting style came from my mother, but doing the opposite of what she did,
Yeah.
because I know how it made me feel. But one thing I will say, though, being in a relationship that's not healthy, that's toxic, it's not good for you. It's not good for him. It's definitely not good for the kids.
I
And I
agree.
would never encourage anybody to stay in I'm going to say, marriage if it's toxic.
I agree. I agree
You know?
100%. Relationship, marriage, it doesn't matter, because
Hmm.
I mean the toxicity. Well, that's a whole nother. topic to get in, as far as marriage and staying marriage. I know a lot of
Mhm.
people are following biblical, what the Bible says about marriage and all that stuff, whatever. And I won't get in that because I got my own opinion
I got mine too.
about that.
Mhm.
But like you said, toxic, if anything is toxic, abusive, it just a lot of times we do things as far as getting married and we do not consult God.
No, we don't, because you know why? Society has told us for years that you are to get married. If you are 35 and you are unmarried, they call you an old maid.
Hmm.
Girl, why aren't you married yet? Girl, why aren't you married yet? How come you don't have any kids? Maybe that's not a part of your journey,
Right.
but this is what we've been brainwashed since we were kids, that we're supposed to get married, have kids. You got to do it early because by 35, no one wants to be labeled the old maid.
Hmm.
Well, that's not true.
Right.
If you're not ready, what's the point? I could have been divorced 3 times.
Hmm. So let's talk about that. So you were engaged 3 times. So let's talk about like what made you say, you know what, I'm not gonna do this.
Well, my first fiance, we were together from like 18, 19. Um, he was there with me through that whole, my mom getting sick, my sister getting sick, my mom passing away. Um, his family, he came from a large family. So his family was my family. I became a part of that family and they loved me like I was a part of that family. Um, we moved out together. That was our first, apartment. It was like January 12th, 1989. I still remember. Um, and we were like, of all the young couples, we had the nicest cars, the nicest apartment, the best jobs out of all of our young friends, right? We were doing the doggone thing. But he wasn't ready to get married. He wasn't ready. We got engaged for Christmas. And then he told me, 6 months later or something, I was hearing rumors about him kind of doing his thing out there, still out in the street. He was good looking dude. So I know the girls was flocking to him. Um, but what got me was there was a girl at work, and he told me that it was a girl at work, one of his homegirls. I'm not the jealous type, not at all.
Hmm.
I'm very secure within myself, always have been, always will be. And so, she would call when he's home, and if I'm there and he's talking to her, and he would be like, "Hey, Omega, so and so said hi." I'd be like, "Oh, hi." Well, I had no idea what was the behind the scene going on. And this particular time, she said, I answered the phone, he wasn't home, and she goes, "Oh, is this his cousin?" I was like, "No, it's his girlfriend, his fiance." And she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, he didn't tell me, blah blah blah." So then now you're busted. So
Hmm.
now I gotta have a conversation. And I sat down with him. It's no emotion, no anger. I'm not trying to kill you, beat you up, whatever. Time for you to make a decision, bruh.
Hmm.
And I said to him, I'm not going to deal with this, because what you expect me to be exclusive to you while you out there running the street, that's not how it go. So he's like, "Well, I know when I get married, I know I'm not ready now, but I know that you're the one I want to marry." And I said, "Cool. Then it's time for you to go. If I'm available and around when that time comes, we can revisit it then. But you're not gonna hold me on no stream while you out there in the street. No, no, not gonna happen." So that's how he and I ended it. Um, and then with my daughter's father, I didn't want to get married because I was pregnant, and that was
Right.
the only reason I think he proposed to me, because I was. And then I said I don't want to get married pregnant. And then after I had her, I realized why we shouldn't have gotten married, because he just was not ready. So that was number two. And the last one was 6 years ago. I got engaged. This was a great man. And I'm going to tell you, ladies, listen to me. Okay. If you find a man, or a man finds you, and this man takes care of you, meaning sit down over there and be quiet, I got this, let him have this. I never had that, Kourtney. I never. I've always been the person who had to do everything in a relationship. So finding this man, finding me, where he was doing, we going on vacation, he planned everything and paid for everything. I didn't have to look up, what do you need me to do? No, can you just roll with a king?
Hmm.
And then it came to unfortunately with COVID, life took him back to California.
Hmm.
So we had to make a deal. When you come to Arizona, I got it. I got you. I'll do all the cooking and blah, blah, blah. When I go to California and I'm at your spot, he does all the cooking and cleaning and blah, blah, blah. All the spoiling me. Why can't you sit down and let the man? Well, you cook. Do you want me to clean the dishes? How come I couldn't just sit down and just do what he asked me to do?
Right.
Because it was so foreign. But that's what a man is supposed to do. And it's sad that we don't know it as grown people or women because of the level of men who are out there that we have seen through the years. We can't appreciate it when we got a king sitting right in front of us.
Hmm.
So he said something to me that he said, I don't know. He said, because I want a wife, not a mother.
Hmm. Let that marinate, because we're so used to being mothers.
Yes.
And sometimes we end up mothering our husband. I'm guilty. I am
Mhm,
guilty.
mhm.
So, okay, let that marinate for the people.
Let him, baby. When your brother even tell you, sis, he's right.
Hmm.
Wow.
So
Talk
what
about
happened to him? Do I need to call him? What happened? Hello? What happened to him?
we still talk. But
Okay.
he moved to 2 years ago. He's going back and forth, but he's in the Dominican. He left the
Okay.
US and went to the Dominican. And I'm sorry, my life is here in the US. I don't care how much I dislike things going on. I'm not going nowhere.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
but you never know. We're still good friends. When he does make it to the States, he'll come visit me. And we have like the most amazing conversations, which I love because we have so much fun. But I think one thing that I didn't mention, one of the biggest things for him was his insecurities. Because, during that time I was touring, and I was touring with the Miracles. It's all men and me. But, the lead singer is like my brother. So he's looking after me. Um, and then when you're in that industry and you have to go to these events and all this and that, my wardrobe, my closet's pretty fly. I'm just going to say that. And he wasn't used to that because he felt like when we would go places, people would compliment, girl, you wearing that, whatever. And I'm like, thank you, because I'm very humble. And he's like, you dress for attention. So we had that going on. And I think that was just him being with someone that's a little different than what he's used to.
Mhm.
I've even had a guy that I dated who told me that I was too perfect.
Mm.
And I had to tell him, I said, well, you know what's really sad? Of course I'm not perfect. The only one that's perfect is the creator. But the fact that you don't feel like you deserve perfection,
Mm.
what's wrong with you?
Right.
You know? But anyway,
Wow. Um, so
peace is my power, girl.
yes, I see. The when you being in the music industry, so let's just talk about that. Did you what about, like, hey, it's the music industry. You can find somebody on the same wavelength as you that understands, what it's like to, get dressed up or get, sauced up. I don't know if that's the right word, I don't know. But to go out, what I'm saying, that understands, because a lot of people, if they're actors and actresses, they end up marrying somebody in the same industry because they get each other.
Hmm.
So did you not find nobody find you?
Girl. Yes and no. I found some dogs. Deputy dog. What's deputy dog?
Deputy dog. With the
Yeah,
little hat.
doggy dog. You know what I'm saying? Um, I show it all depends. I don't like to date anybody that I was working with. A manager taught me that early on. He was like, you just don't do that because you don't want somebody to be upset and they have control over your career. And then all of a sudden they're pissed at you. Boom, there goes your career.
Mm.
So some of the people I met at parties, we had friendships. There was one guy that I dated for a little bit. He was on a subsidiary of the record label that I was on, and my group was um, working with Midnight Star. Remember that group?
Hmm. I still love their music. In fact,
Uh,
I think it came on the other day. Secret
yeah,
Lovers and stuff. Ooh.
they were producing one of the songs on our album,
Mm.
and so I was the last one to join the group. So they were having me come in to just put ad libs. Okay, so you know what the ad libs is, the oohs, ah, the, all
Mhm.
that stuff throughout the song. But when I did my ad libs, he's like, I need you to learn the second verse, and you're gonna come back tomorrow and lay down the second verse. Well, the one girl that was in my group, who was the lead singer, she was not happy about that at all because she thought, hey, this is my group and blah blah blah. And the other girl couldn't sing at all, so she didn't care. She was just there for the look. Um, and so I couldn't share the excitement with them because they were
Right.
kind of looking at me like, ooh. Um, so I had his itinerary and I called his hotel room, and a woman answered the phone, and I asked, making sure I got the right room. And she was like, yeah, this is room. I said, man, speak to him. And she's like, oh, he's in the shower. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, just let him know that Omega call. Okay. So of course he had a different story about it. I was done
Right.
because I'm like, I'm not gonna go around playing, what is it, inch eye, private eye, that I got to be the detective and all. No,
It's
I'm too old.
work.
You know
It
what I'm
is work.
saying?
Mhm.
And if I can't trust you, I don't need to be with you. So how do you explain some random female in your room at 2 in the morning? Y'all wasn't just in there having a conversation, and you comfortable enough with this person that you in the shower? So anyway,
And who
whatever he.
showering at 2 something in the morning, honey? That's after you then probably did the do. Like it's 2 o'clock in the morning. So who's showering like that?
Hmm. Or even if they just came back from, depending on if they did a show that night. Some of
Okay.
the dressing rooms do have showers in them. Because I've taken showers from venues before I get on the bus to get taken back to the hotel. But just having some random person you don't know and you out of their sight, no, 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 no. So anyway, he actually fessed up later on, but by then it was, the trust was broken. It's too late. I'm not gonna do that. But we can still be cool. We can
Right.
still be cool.
Yeah.
So this, I said, some nobody that other than him. I think he was probably the longest one in the industry that I did date for a while. But having fun. Okay, yeah, yeah. I had one that to me it was a situationship, and that's the way
Mhm.
I left it. It was a great one until he called me and like at 3 o'clock in the morning, and my daughter, I think she was around 8 or 9 at the time, and I told him, this was my weekend because he's like, oh, I miss you. I want you. Got your ticket waiting at the airport. Just fly in on Thursday. You go back home on Sunday. And I was like, no, this is my weekend with my daughter. Well, can't you just get somebody to watch her? Excuse me? No, I can't. I'm not gonna pawn my daughter off on somebody just so I can go fly to Atlanta and lay up with you. I don't think so.
Girl, they do it every day, honey. All day, every day,
Oh,
honey.
I
They
know. 'Cause I have friends tell me that, girl, you crazy. I would have left. Well, that's you. This is my weekend. I was already upset. I had to have every other weekend with her dad. And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that because this is our time. And I just felt like with him having 5 kids already,
ooh,
um, girl, uh, that if you a true father, you should respect that, right?
mhm.
You would think.
You would think, but he probably trying to make the 6 with you, honey.
No, 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 not no, ma'am.
Mm. Oh, now, so we got a little bit of your history and everything. So, like, kind of like, where are you today? So, I know you said you were engaged, and those, was called off. Like, when we fast forward to swiping right after 40,
Hmm.
like, where are you today as far as relationship wise, peace wise? Are you looking to get married? Like, where is your status at, and where are you looking for it to go?
Well, I'm looking for, let me rephrase that. I desire companionship. Marriage, no. Marriage is not in the cards for me at this age. Um, because I don't see the benefit of marriage my age. Um, of course, people are going to say, oh, and then you're fornicating and blah, 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 or whatever. But what about all the other things that you're doing in your marriage that's not godly? One
Right.
sin weighs no more than the other.
Right.
Um, for me to get married, usually you get married, you build something with your spouse. You know, if you're young, you want to build a family, you want to build a structure. Um, there's nothing for me to build at this point. You know, I'll be 60 years old next year. Okay.
You look good, honey.
Thank you,
That look
darling. And see, that's another problem because I take care of myself and I look good health wise. I'm great in great shape, you know, trying to find somebody in my age bracket that does the same. That girl, you know, no offense to, you know, people, but we just don't take care of ourselves the way we should. Um, and therefore, you know, my ex, he's a personal trainer. So he wop up, bam, okay. And he'll be 60 next month.
Listen,
Um,
brother-in-law, come back over here, brother-in-law, to the US. Like, come on over here. Hey,
you
get out of
know,
there.
yeah, and that was something that we connected on because he was saying he had to date younger because most of the women in our age bracket, they don't take care of themselves. You know, so I'm like, well, I can echo that because, you know, I can't, you know, and I don't want to be offensive to anybody. This is just my preference or whatever. But I'm not ready to be pushing a man in a wheelchair and helping him on. I'm trying to enjoy life,
I know that's right.
you know, but right now, because what I've built, my assets that I've built are going to my daughter and my granddaughter, not to be split to some man who didn't help me obtain anything.
Mm.
Okay. As far as a medical directive, that's my daughter's job. She's been in my life almost 33 years. She knows what her mom wants. She knows what her mom likes, and she'll make the best decision for her mom. So when you factor that in, what is the man coming in for? It's strictly companionship. That's it.
Mm.
You know, and hey, we could do a commitment ceremony. We'll be like, what's her name? And Brandon and Lord M.
Yeah.
We can have a commitment ceremony because it's
Right.
not the commitment piece of it. It's just the legalities that don't make sense
Right.
for me. Um, I'm just ready to enjoy life with a partner. You know, my ex and I, we traveled, we had fun together. You know, that was one of the good things that I liked about him, and he made me laugh. You know, that's all. It's really simple. When I sit back and say, you know what, I own a home. He doesn't have to own a home, but he needs to have his own spot.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be able to take care of yourself. I take care of myself. You need
Mm-hmm.
to have your own car. Don't be borrowing mine. So, you
Mm-hmm.
know, those are the things that I'm saying. Does he need to make six figures? You know,
Mm-hmm.
match
He
me?
do. He
I would
do.
love for him to make six figures to
He,
match me.
he
But
got you.
the reality is he's not. He's
Mm-hmm.
not. Because most of the men who are, trust me, I just came back from a conference of 500 people. And why do we do this to ourselves? But there was six people of color there out of 500 people in corporate America. Six people, four of them were sisters, two brothers. So where am I supposed to meet this dude that, you know, I grew up humble beginnings in the hood, all that. I would love to have somebody that same way because we definitely can relate to each other. Now
Right.
my ex, he grew up in humble beginnings. You know, he did okay for himself, you know, but he doesn't understand. He's never been with somebody that rolls like I do. We roll differently. Okay. I'm not a hotel room type of person. I'm a sweet kind of girl. You know that. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
When I do something, I do it big, right? Because why? I work hard, I play harder. And I need somebody that can understand that, or why are you doing this or why are you doing that? Uh, because I want to, because yeah. Well, it doesn't make sense to what's the difference between a suite and a regular room? Well, it's a lot. It's more space, amenities that come with it. If we're gonna go, let's go. Let's do do it.
No, that's
So, you know, um, those were kind of like the challenges. I remember I swiped right and met this guy, and we met up at a Chili's in the bar to watch the game. Right, I walk in. Now we're friends. We are really good friends now. But he was straight up. B said, "Oh hell no," and I was like, "What?" He said, "You gonna take all my chick?" And I'm like, ha 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 ha. But he was saying, no, I knew that I couldn't dance with you because I'm not on that level. At
Mm.
least he was honest with
Yeah.
himself.
Yeah.
We laugh about it, but that's just me. I've been blessed. What am I
Mhm.
not supposed to do it?
Right. Right. So
You know,
sweet. Speaking of swiping right, so you have been on dating apps before. Okay.
Mhm,
And it didn't
mhm.
work out.
No, you know what? I made some good friends. The guy I just told you about. We're still friends to this day. I have another friend that I met on the app. Um, he actually has colon cancer now, but we've been friends for about 11 years that I met him on the app. We just didn't click from a relationship perspective, but we did click from a friend perspective. So we're still friends to this day. Um, and then there's this other one girl. Ooh, Lord. That's my what do you say, my unicorn? But he had his own business going, and it became challenging for him when his money, the business had to kind of like he shut it down. But him going through all that, then that's when the insecurities for him set in. And he would tell me, if my life was stable, my finances was stable, you and I would be together. So we're just friends, and now I think it's going on 13 years.
Mm.
Yeah, but again, he made me laugh. He still makes me laugh because he's just silly as all get out. But that's what I like. I
Right.
like a man who can make me laugh, knows when to be serious, knows how to be serious, and be sexy.
Okay. All right, men.
Okay, that's it. And wait, I got this one. He and I, oh gosh, we met when I was like 22, 23 years old, something like that. And his sister I was assistant operations officer at a bank. She was my new accounts person. And she was showing pictures from the 4th of July, her little family thing. And this picture came up and I saw him. I was like, who is that? And she said, oh, that's my little brother, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I just broke up with my fiance. And I'm, just being silly how we
Right.
are. We're
Right.
silly. So about 3 weeks later, when he came into the bank, and I looked at him. I was like, I knew exactly who he was. So then she was like, "Oh, Megan, I want you to come meet my brother." So he and I hung out for a little bit back then, but I wasn't ready to get into a serious relationship. So we just kind of. I ran away. That's what he said. I dumped him. He fine too, girl. He is so fine, and he has very successful now. I tried to when I got laid off a couple years ago. We reconnected. He's in California. He just had a $3.4 million house built out there, doing very well. But you know what the problem was?
You.
He didn't want me to work.
Oh, he didn't want you to work.
Mm-mm. He didn't want me to work
Yeah, that's crazy.
because he said that he watched his mother struggle all those years, and he couldn't wait till he was able to retire his mom, and he's not going to see his wife do that, yada yada yada. And I said to him, because he goes, when I travel, I want you by my side. It's too much temptation out there. This turned me off. Red flag. And I said, well, me being by your side has nothing to do with temptation. It's still going to be there. It's up to you to resist it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I
Mm-hmm.
said, if a man want to cheat, you could cheat sitting right next to me and somebody underneath the table, and I
Okay,
don't even know.
that's true.
So, and I said, my biggest thing is what you tell me that you love about me is, he was in that Michelle and Barack type mindset, the strong woman. Yeah, I can hold my own. Um, I can be, look as beautiful as you want me to look. Um, I can be in that realm as well, in that environment and be somebody you'll definitely be proud of because I'm well versed and knowledgeable, highly intelligent. But you want me to give all that up just to be your wife?
Just to be a arm candy, eye candy. What they say, trophy
Yeah,
wife.
trophy wife. And I was like, but you want to strip me of everything that you just said
Mm-hmm.
that you like about me.
Mm-hmm.
So no,
Yeah.
I was like, this won't work. I'm sorry.
So let me say this. I wanted to bring Tracy Ellis Ross into it. I don't know if you
Mhm.
got a chance to sit down and watch when she was talking with Michelle Obama on her podcast. I think that's Michelle Obama's brother too. So
Mhm.
when she was saying that, she don't date men her age because of the way that most men that she's talked to in her age bracket have this I guess traditional mindset that it doesn't appease to her, so she dates younger. So is that something that you have done? Have you dated younger, or do you like to stay within your own age bracket?
The youngest I've gone was someone 2 years old, 2 years younger than me.
Oh yeah, so that's a
Now
no.
I get hit on a lot by, brothers in their 30s and 40s, and I'm like, oh, sweetie, you so cute. I'm old enough to be your mama. Uh, and they'll be like, no, no, you're not. I'm like, I have a 33-year-old daughter, sweetheart. Yes, I am. They're like, wow, but um, I don't know if you know. Well, let me say it this way. Then this is where we get into. Um, if I got to take care of a man, then I would have to go with somebody younger. Because at least if I have to be the one to take us on the trips, and this is what I mean by take care of a man. I'm paying for us to go on trips. I'm paying for us to do all these things. I'm not doing that for no old man.
Mm, right.
Because at least with the young man, I kind of know what I'm gonna get in return. You know what I'm saying? So with the old man, what I don't want to be wake up, baby. It's time. Did you take your medicine today? I don't want. I don't want to go into that. You know, early on, starting. I get it. We get old, our bodies change, and this, that, and the other. But that's why we gotta keep the mind frame of taking care of ourselves.
Right.
And I don't think it would work with me being with someone who's not on that same roadway as I am from a health perspective. Because he's gonna get tired of me saying, you're not gonna eat that. Don't eat that. You're gonna get tired of it. Because the mother in me is gonna say, boo boo, you know what I mean? Don't eat that. You want this? Let's try this. Or baby, come on, let's go for a walk. I built a gym in my house. Let's go sit in the gym room for a little bit. Get on the
Mm-hmm.
treadmill. Go lift some weights or something. You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna get mad. So even though it's like, well, I'm trying to do this for us because your health is important to me too if we're going to be together. But if he doesn't have that drive and that state of mind, it's just going to create a problem.
Right.
So I'm at that stage where, it's unfortunate that the men that are the six-figure brothers, they don't want me. They don't want a woman like me. And because why? I have an opinion. I don't need them. I desire them. When you can't impress me with all these material things. I mean, I've been working with multimillionaires, pretty much my whole entire life. I didn't seen it all.
Mm-hmm.
Who didn't had it? They didn't took me to restaurants that I'm like, why are we going here? I don't know what this is, but and you don't eat there either, so stop it. Um, so it's not even about that. You see those skits they got on social media with a girl complaining because he took her to Red Lobster or cheesecake factory, and she expects to go to oceans or crustaceans or on a first date. Why? You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. And they just want somebody that they can impress. With me, I'm not impressed by material things. I'm impressed by your heart.
Hmm. Yeah. Say it's in other words, you say, can't no man Shannon Sharp you, Chad.
No,
Because
no.
men of not all, but some men of that caliber want a woman to where they can control. She doesn't have an opinion. She kind of idolizes him and looks to him as being, her savior, I guess. I don't know. But when you're dealing with a woman that's an adult for real,
Mhm.
that has lived life, that has her own, then sometimes that intimidates men. And so men don't go a secure, strong man that is secure in who he is should not allow that to intimidate him. But sometimes if a man is not secure in his worth, his value, and he just uses his money because that's all he knows
That's all he
and his
knows.
things and stuff, then he can attract a 20-some-year-old girl, or some girl that could be working at McDonald's or whatever, that's in a lower tax bracket than him, just so he can feel like he is somebody.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that's true because those are the ones that can be bought and paid for.
Yep.
Will Smith said something about Jada when Jada had she directed two of my group's videos back in the day. So during the time of Will and Jada meeting each other, Will made a comment. He said, "You know what? This one, talking about Jada, is more challenging for me because I can't impress her with just simple things. I go buy this one over here, a tennis bracelet. She jumping up and down. I get Jada a tennis bracelet, and she's like, "Oh, thank you," because she could buy her own.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference. So he had to be creative in how he did things to her, and he realized that it was the simplest of things that would
Mm-hmm.
please her. Just like me, I am very humble, very humble. Just because I do things when we go places, I do things on a certain level. Just don't put me in a place where we got to worry about bed bugs and coming outside the car gone. Uh, somebody running up in the room on us. And I would hope that you would not feel comfortable doing that because as a man, as a protector, you want to make sure that I'm good.
Right.
But if I choose to stay at a 5-star hotel, if I'm paying for it, hush up, just enjoy it. You know what I do. You know how I like to roll. It's not a competition thing, boo. This is just letting you know I can do this for us.
Right.
And if you can't do it at that level, do what you can do.
Yeah.
But a lot of men, it's like, and I'm sure you've probably heard this expression of, you don't need no man, you are the man.
Mm.
Men say that all the time. Oh yeah, she don't look like no man. And I had asked you to ask Eddie, what does it mean when you say that you look taken? What that mean? I hear that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean I look taken?
Right. Yeah. And he did explain it if you guys want to go back and watch it on, I think it was the very first podcast
Okay.
that we did. So but yeah, he did explain it and go into grave detail on what his view of, a
Hmm.
woman looks taken. Because a lot of men do think that women, and I think too, when a woman looks well kept, when she looks like she's taking good care of herself, sometimes I don't know why men feel like, oh, she don't need a man. And it's a different day and age where women are in corporate America. They are making the 6 and 7 figures. They doing all the things. And sometimes, men do on that hand get intimidated by that because they feel like, what does she need me for? Because men have always been known as being the provider. So now,
Hmm.
if a woman has all these things, what am I here for? Is it just sex? Because nowadays, honey, women don't need a man for that either.
No,
Uh,
exactly.
so, I mean, it's like when a man steps to a woman of a certain caliber, he has to make sure that he has to bring something other than wealth. You know what I'm saying? Like you said,
Right.
you like for a man to make you laugh, like his characteristics. Like you have to bring something other than money to a woman because it takes more than that, because
Mm-hmm.
it's a different day and age. Back in the day, grandmama stayed at home and the man went out and all those things. So
Right. Mm-hmm.
he provided for her. So, but now it's different. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the reasons why Tracy Ellis Ross made that statement to the men in her age bracket are different. They
Right.
think different. And she don't want that. It doesn't resonate to where she is. Now that's why she gets somebody younger. The millennials, they think different. Every generation thinks different.
Mm-hmm. And that young guy will be very appreciative of her because of the status that she has. They're having fun. She doesn't care if he has money or not. You know what I'm saying? It's about the feeling that he gives to her. And I'm not talking about the sexual part of it, but just the overall companionship that she gets with him. It doesn't come with the competition. And the men in the
Mhm,
age bracket, they feel like they're in competition with women. And hey,
mhm,
stats, I read some the other day, 76% of homeowners are women, single women.
mm, mm,
76%.
mhm.
So,
When we was on the phone talking, finish. I'm
mhm.
sorry.
No. I was
Go
just gonna
ahead.
say, when you just think about it, I don't know how many are black women, but it just said 76% are women.
When we were on the phone talking, I know you were saying something about as far as women have did this to men, and I'm
Mhm.
trying to think of the conversation that we had.
Oh,
Do
that's
you
when I
remember?
said that, when the women complain about there's no good, the men are no good. There's no good men out there, and
Hmm.
and I said that women, we're the reason, we're at fault here. We're the reason why the men are the way they are, because
So,
all that you think about the times when, oh, it's 7 women to every one man, and you're in competition for that one man. You're putting up and tolerating so much stuff for so long to get to that one man, or you're feeling like I'm gonna have to share him. A piece of man is better than no man, right? So why should a man pull up?
mm,
It goes with the old saying of why buy, what is it, the cow when you get the milk for free.
hmm,
Same analogy.
hmm,
If we started to make men be men, it would change.
hmm.
There's no way, and I don't want to offend anybody, but I cannot understand how a man can have 6, 7, 8 children by 6, 7, 8 women, never been married to any of them. Ladies, at what point do you say, I'm going to stop this nonsense? And you wonder why he's not raising, he can't be a father to kids like that. There's no way. The whole Nick Cannon thing, how come nobody's not in an uproar with him? Why does he get a pass? What does he have, like 13 kids by how many women? 6, 7 women? How is that acceptable? It's not.
Right. Did my camera just go out? Can you see me?
It did. Yeah, it did.
Oh, okay, just continue to talk. I don't know what happened.
Okay. But I think a lot of that is, you know, um, we're just not holding them accountable. And we know how much men love women, and men love doing things to women. Stop discounting yourself. Stop giving it away for free. Or, if the lady down the street, if he comes with that old thing, well, what you won't do, her down the street will do, then go down to her.
Right.
And then her down the street needs to have enough um, strength to say, I deserve better than this. You know what I mean? I deserve better. I'm worth more than that. And that would change the mindset. Because men don't, you hear women now saying, well, what happened to the courting stages where men, used to show up with flowers and candy and send you little notes and all this stuff? They don't do that anymore. You know why? Because they don't have to.
Mm, you're
They don't
right.
have to. Women are not requiring men to be men anymore. We're basically saying, and when I say weird, that doesn't mean all, but a lot of women are saying that I can be bought and paid for.
Hmm.
So I don't care what you do. It's about the come up. That whole mentality has got to change in order for men to change. And I don't see them changing if we continue to allow them to be that type of guy that can just do whatever he wants. You see all this infidelity discussions that married women are putting up with, and all of this craziness. Husbands are saying they weren't attracted to you. I just saw another one on that podcast where he's saying that you were my type, but she was convenient because she was there. What? I don't understand it. We have got to reclaim our queendom, girl. We've got to.
I agree. I 100% agree. Just like I don't agree with the side chick method. I mean,
Mm-mm.
method, the side chick and all that stuff, whatever, because it is giving a man like, why does he need to settle down?
Right.
Because I mean, he got so many options. But ladies, if the ladies realize you really and truly you the prize, you the
Exactly.
prize. But
We
I think that
are.
a lot of women sell themselves short and feel like you said, like it's a shortage. Oh my gosh, I can't get no man because I. Oh, you the prize. Sit back, baby. Sit
Exactly.
back.
Enjoy
You
it.
are
There
the
is
prize.
nothing wrong with being single. Don't let society, don't let your pastor's wife,
Right.
nobody tell you that there's something wrong with you because you're single.
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong. You just refuse to settle. Now, let me just say this. Let's be realistic. Ladies, we got to be realistic in our selections and our requirements of these men, because what gets me is every time you see a Steve Harvey or somebody like that, what is it that he tells women? You need to lower your standards. You need to adjust your standards. Why? What if I say, I desire a man who's on my level, who can match me line for line, word for word? I'm not asking him to do anything for me that I can't do for myself. What if I say that?
Right.
Where they at?
Hmm.
That's the next question. Well, you need to adjust your standards. Why?
Hmm.
Encourage the men to pull up.
Hmm.
And I think where we need to start is, you know, in these homes, these men making all these babies in all these single family homes, these women are raising all these sons by themselves. A check coming every month is not a parental figure.
Right.
Who's teaching them how to be men? And if they got a mama who's at home that's doing everything, he gonna expect, well, isn't that what a woman's supposed to do?
Hmm.
No, you're supposed to go out and work and bring home the bacon so that the woman, your wife, can fry it up in the pan. But
Yeah.
you want her to go out, make the money, buy the bacon, come home, cook the bacon, put the bacon on the plate, take the plate to you while you lay in the bed. No, that's not how it go. But there's nobody out there to show them what it's supposed to look like. And the poor women, Lord have mercy, these young girls are lost.
Hmm.
They're
Yep.
lost.
And that's why the Bible says that the elders are supposed to teach the younger women, and I mean, I can say this like I just said, like you're the prize and you didn't
Mm-hmm.
settle. I think that people may sometimes get preference and settle mixed up. Yes, don't settle, but you may have to adjust your preference. If he's,
Mm-hmm.
I like I said before, I wanted a certain height, but I thank God that I didn't look for that certain height anymore because I wouldn't have, the guy that I have today, which I love him dearly.
Mm-hmm.
So adjust your preference, but
Mm-hmm.
keep your standards for sure because
Absolutely.
there is a
Mm-hmm.
difference. You don't want to lower them at all because that's your standards. That's what
Right.
makes you feel like this is, where you want to be in life, in this
Mm-hmm.
relationship and be with a lifelong partner, not just somebody fly night, child. Because you want somebody. Most women our age, especially after 40, they want to be in a committed relationship, either
Mm-hmm.
married or have a companion for the rest of their life
Absolutely.
partner. So
Mm-hmm.
they're not looking for that, just hit it and quit it and stuff like that.
Right.
Ugh,
Mm-hmm.
ugh, ugh.
No, totally agree, girl.
Yeah. So
Yep.
I want to get ready to wrap this up, but I do want to say, and you kind of touched on this. So what would you say for women that, because I like the fact that you say it's okay to be single. you
Mm-hmm.
know. And I think that may be where a lot of women may be wavering. I'm after 40, I'm over 40, or I'm approaching 40, and I'm not married yet. And some people want to have children and stuff like that, but I'm not married yet, so I'm itching to get married. And a lot of times they end up getting the wrong person just because of that factor, that they are itching to get married.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when a man knows that a woman wants to get married, women got to know the game, that a man will be everything and say everything for you in that moment and marry you and become a totally different person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they feel like I got you. I
Hmm.
got you now.
Hmm.
But I would just say to the women, 40 is not the end of life. Yeah, I get it. Your biological clock is ticking. How many years have we heard that? But you know what? If it's for you, if God has it for you, it will happen. Just don't just settle for anything and end up with nothing.
Hmm.
And I think that's the best thing that I can, say. Yeah, 6 years ago, I was ready to get married. I thought it was going to be great. Um, Kind of glad I didn't, but then again, here I am now. Marriage is not for me at this age. You know what I mean? So life changes. I'm not talking about commitment because that's not my issue. Um, it's the legalities that come with marriage. That's my story.
Hmm.
Um, I don't, judge anybody. Um, people, people, let me just tell you this, ladies, you have your own story. You have your own journey. Your journey doesn't have to make sense to anyone other than you.
Hmm.
Okay.
Amen.
So I will say that because there's going to be a lot of outside noise. People always do that. They got something to say, but that's okay. Let them talk. I don't care if you're religious or not. I just happen to be religious and I listen to my direction that comes from God. But I would just say to you, and I'm looking in the camera, I'm looking dead at you right there, girl. I see you. It's okay to be single and don't rush into something that's not meant for you. So
Amen.
that's
Amen.
my.
I love it. Hopefully, if somebody is watching that may be in that place, then they took heed to what you were saying.
Mhm.
So on that note, I want to go ahead and wrap this up, but I should have said this in the beginning. I don't even think I introduced myself. I got to get used to introducing
You
myself.
didn't. You didn't. You did one heck of an introduction for me. Thank you, and I appreciate it.
But for those that have made it to the end of this video, my name is Kourtney, and I am the host of Swipe Right After 40. I wrote a book that is called Swipe Right After 40. Um, Finding love online after 40, because it happened for me. I found my husband, or he found me, or we found each other, however you want to see it worded,
Mhm.
online. And so I wrote a book to encourage other women that are after 40, past 40, or approaching 40, that may be in a place where you are divorced, or you're not in a relationship, and just to encourage you to kind of be open when it comes to dating online. Now, I know Miss Omega read my book, and so I want her to give, like, the her own honest opinion about it. She gave it to me, so I want her to tell you guys about it. It's a good read.
It
It's
is.
easy read.
Very good read.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of things. I like what you mentioned about, especially right now, social media can be a good platform. The old days of meeting people, sorry, y'all, is over.
Mhm.
Um, that could be a nice, I'll say, vehicle to use to meet people. I know even on Facebook, there's a lot of 50 classy and flirty and all these other groups, user groups that people have created, and people post things in there. It's not necessarily a dating site, but
Right.
there's a lot of people in there that are single and available. And I would just think, like you said, you just have to be open to it. And
Mhm.
I think what you really should do is know what it is that you want, know where you are, know what your non-negotiables are. Because trust me, girl, you gonna meet some people when you online, and you gonna really be swiping, you know swiping right, but you have to swipe through them to get to some good ones. And there are Unfortunately, there wasn't love found for me doing that, but I do have some great friends that I've made out of that, and we're still friends here today. It's just a lot of things that um, my standards weren't didn't align with what and who they were, and a
Right.
lot of them happened to be insecurities. But again, that's my story. I
Exactly.
know people who have been very successful in online dating. I worked with a girl that she met her husband. Actually, two of them met their husbands on Match, and they told me it didn't work for me, but it worked for them. But
Right.
I had to be open to it, and that's all I'm gonna say. Encourage that. It's one of the things you said in the book. You just got to be open to it.
Yeah.
Use the
Yeah.
platform.
Yeah.
And another thing I'm gonna say is you just stay ready. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. You might meet him in the grocery store, or you
Yeah.
might be going to the gas station, and he might be there at the gas station. I met one of them there too. Um, so just be open to
Just
that. Don't feel rushed.
yeah.
Just let it flow. Let it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Because swiping right after 40, it's a whole new world, and it doesn't necessarily mean a dating app per se, but it's just like,
Hmm.
as they say, life begins at 40, and I found that out to be true for myself. Like, it was a brand new life for me, because you're at a
Hmm.
place where you should be at a place of maturity, and
Right.
life is, getting better, not worse, but getting better for you.
Hmm.
So yeah, swiping right after 40, it entails so much, but not necessarily just dating, but just being open to the possibility of finding love after 40, because it's definitely not too late.
It's not too late.
Yep.
No, I agree.
So on that note, you guys, I am going to go ahead and get out of here. Thank you so much, Miss Omega, for this
Thank you
sit
for
down,
having
chit
me.
chat, girls talk. I am super excited about this podcast and where it's gonna go, because right now I really truly don't know the full format, but I know I am being led, and I'm just going to go with the leading.
There you
So
go.
I expect to have other guests on here talking, and swiping right after 40 could be business, it could be entrepreneurship, it could be so many things. And so I'm excited about that. So I appreciate all of you guys. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to this channel. Make sure that you like this video, comment down below, give me your insight, your input. And did you go and get the book yet? Go to
Right.
www.swiperighafter40.com to purchase your book today. You don't want to miss out, y'all. It's not a hard read, honey. It is a ebook, child. You can swipe through that real quick, honey, and get you some good old information, and some things that are very informative for you. So definitely go to swiperighafter40.com to purchase your book today. And make sure that if you're listening to us on the Swipe Right After 40 podcast on Spotify, make sure that you comment down below and share this with your friends, your girlfriends.
Share it.
Share this, because you don't know who's going through something.
Right.
All girlfriends don't talk to each other. They may not feel open enough to share what they're going through and what they're
Hmm.
experiencing in their life currently, because a lot of times people are going through depression, and you wouldn't even know it.
You wouldn't know it.
So
Exactly.
definitely share this with your group, share with your girlfriend, share with the guys, share. So thank you again so much, Miss Omega, and I appreciate you. And y'all, she gonna work on doing a swipe right after 40 intro, honey. So it is coming. Y'all know she wrote and produced the Kourtney and Eddie theme song that people say they cannot get out their head. So she is
Hmm.
gonna write one for her, over
Over
her,
her.
over
Yep.
her. So thank you so much again, you
Thank
guys,
you.
and we will see you on the next episode of Swipe Right After 40.
Right.
Deuces.
Bye.